So good morning and thank you for joining the Kaiser Reef Limited October Investor Webinar. I'm Jane Morgan, the Investor and Media Relations Manager. Last week, we released the A1 Gold Mine milestone and drilling results, which we will run through today. Jonathan will also provide a company update and engage in a Q&A session. To ask a question throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So today I am joined by Kaiser Reef's Executive Director, Jonathan Downs. So Jonathan, I will pass over to you.
Thank you very much, Jane. I appreciate the opportunity. And good morning, everyone. I just thought this would be a great opportunity to, put context around our ASX release recently on Friday, which highlighted the milestone achievement. It's incredibly exciting for us. The gold operation has been at the A1 mine has been targeting narrow vein, high grade lodes, which has been the bread and butter production source for many years for the operation and has been largely profitable. However, there's a much wider ore body that sits at depth that's amenable to mechanical mining, which means we can mine much wider lodes, up to 15 meters wide, in fact, using much larger equipment, so our costs per tonne fall. So this has been the target for our drilling for nearly a year now. We've spent a lot of money and effort on drilling out the Queen's Lode, as we call it, and the ASX release gave some of those drill results, the kind of ore zones that we expect to intercept, and that includes intercepts like 26 meters at 6.5 grams, which includes a higher grade core of 12 meters at 10. And I guess that's a representative sort of drill intercept you expect through the middle of the Queens. So what's particularly exciting for us is that pushing our decline deeper, we've now actually reached the top of the Queen's Lode. So to actually, Jane, if you want to put that photo up, the three site geologists were extremely excited to achieve the first ore actually being delivered to surface from the Queen's Lode. And you can see that those smiles are very genuine. That white rock represents what the Queen's Lode is. It's a highly bleached and altered diorite ore with a disseminated gold all through it. So this is I guess where our short-term and medium-term production is going to be sourced from, and we're very excited to actually have achieved that. So at the moment, the detailed resource modelling is underway along with engineering studies. So we'll be putting a plan in on how best to extract all that and get into full-scale production. So the stock is, in my opinion, not reflecting the fact that we are in production, and we have three assets. The A1 mine is one of those assets. The other asset that we have is the modern CIP gold plant and mill that's operating at Malden. Malden is where we truck the ore from the A1 mine, and Malden's located in between Ballarat and Bendigo. And Malden happens to represent one of the big goldfields of the original Victorian gold rush, and has produced an extraordinary grade, 2.1 million ounces of gold production at 28 grams a tonne of gold. So the diamond drilling that finished at A1, the big diamond drill rig is now at Malden and drilling out the Malden project. And we see a really strong potential at Malden. I can't think of a more exciting goldfield in Australia than the Malden goldfield. And Jane, if you want to put up the other image. The Malden goldfield has had the benefit of previous explorers putting a decline from the bottom of the open hill pit, which you'll see on the left side of your screen. You'll see a decline runs right through and this is a modern decline, I should say, with electricity and ventilation. And it runs right through the historic goldfield and the series of gold reefs. And Those intercepts are the pierce points where the historic drilling has hit some mineralization. And there are some pretty extraordinary drill hits down there. The Victorian goldfields have only very recently become highly investable, and it's taken groups like Kirkland Lake with the Fosterville mine to prove how profitable they can be. And Kirkland Lake is currently, I believe, Australia's highest grade and most profitable gold producer. I think its head grade of its run-of-mill mine is something north of 15 grams a tonne, which is extraordinary. And to put that in context, the reserves at Kirkland Lake or Fosterville, just Fosterville, are less than what was historically mined at Malden, which really suggests that if you scratch a little deeper here and target these shoots going further, and on average, we're looking at lodes that ran from probably about 300 meters down. If we continue down, we think that there's a very good opportunity to find more of the same, which would be a extremely exciting proposition, given one, the existing decline, and two, the fact that our gold processing plant's only a few kilometers away. And our gold processing plant's currently operating well under capacity, so we've certainly got room to take on this extra material. So very exciting times. We've just raised some money through a placement and rights issue. I'm very pleased to say that all the funds have been received for that, and that's put the company in a really strong financial position. And it's given us a lot of capacity, I guess, to really hit Malden hard, which is what I think a lot of our investors want to do, and to get into that Queen's Lode and really develop that and see the A1 mine get back to producing what it should be producing. So I think that's a sort of a brief summary, Jane.
No, that's perfect. Thank you for that, John. And there's a few questions that have come through, so let me jump into them. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So we know that the drilling is going on at Malden. Can you give us a bit of an update on the site?
Yes. So we've been drilling with a small Kempy diamond drill rig for a while. That has largely been pretty ineffective. The ground was just too difficult for a very small Kempy style diamond drill rig, which is a piece of equipment we owned. So we thought we could get into easy, quick and low cost production exploration there. What we've done is address that by taking the big diamond drill rig down underground from the A1 site, and that is ripping through the ground like butter. So I'm very pleased to say production is going through the roof, and we're hitting lodes, quartz lodes, where we think they should be. We don't know where the ore shoots are within those lodes, but we're very encouraged by what we're seeing and the opportunities down there. We also have, to the north of the main gold field there, we have the Nuggety historic gold mine, which I understand is Australia's highest grade historic gold mine at 301,000 ounces at 187 grams a tonne average grade. And we're fully permitted to drill that from surface, and we're trying to secure a diamond drill rig to drill that. We have actually got a rig, we just don't have a crew. COVID's really played havoc with accessing staff for some of these exploration programs in particular. So we'll have 2 diamond drill rigs operating at Malden in the near future, and we'll let the market know when we get the second rig up there. So, exciting times. It's actually all really started.
So just another one on Malden. So one of the key attributes is the existing infrastructure and its proximity to Kaiser's processing plant. How important is this for the operations at Malden?
Well, what it does is having the existing decline running right through the middle of all those ore bodies and the power and the ventilation. It's a terrific reduction in both capital cost and time, potentially. If we were to find an economic panel of ore, we own our own fleet. We have a fabulous team of miners, and we could easily readily access some of these ore bodies at a, I guess, a rate that would surprise people, and from both cost and time wise. So that's the advantage of having all that. This is beyond, I guess, brownfields exploration, because it's we're right on the edge of. We just need to better define the ore bodies around some of these historic hits and get them into production.
There's one that's just come through. So does the company have a mining inventory that does not comprise Queen's Lode at A1?
We don't, no. We have had some historic resources that have been reported in the past on the old Centennial website. I think that's still live. Our team and our geologists haven't been over that and given it, I guess, enough veracity that we'd want to reapply that. So primarily the mining inventory at the A1 mine is very much what we mine in the face. There are some ore bodies around in Australia that have been operating like this for a while, like Norseman has been historically one of those mines, and it's difficult to drill out and define narrow vein lodes that tend to migrate at different angles. By the time you've drilled them out, you're better off probably to have mined them. So we don't have a long run of reserves in front of the company, and we probably won't at the A1 mine. Malden, I think, will be a different proposition. We'll be able to drill those out and get JORC compliant reserves before we launch into it.
There's one that's just come through from the same webinar attendee. So are there plans to extend diamond drilling to target material outside the Queen's Lode?
We've actually already done that. We did 2 deep holes that went 300 meters below, just to test the long-term proposition for A1. And we're very pleased that we did actually hit mineralization well below any historic mining, well below the Queen's Lode. Those will warrant following up in due course, but we hope that the Queen's Lode and continuing air leg mining will keep us going for the next couple of years. And once we're down there a little bit lower, then we'll do a proper drill out further. So it's an ongoing story.
Perfect. So another one's come through. So what efforts are being made to explore and mine narrow vein structures on the 16 and 15 levels?
Well, that's a very detailed question. At this stage, that hasn't been the focus of the company. We do have some review processes going on. There are potential further dikes to the north of the current mine, A1, that warrant exploration. There's the depth to explore, and the upper levels were historically very high grade, and I do think warrant an investigation at some point.
Perfect. And has the relocated drill rig been moved into the Union Hill decline, or is it at surface and confirming that additional rig will be focused on Nuggety?
Right. So the current drill rig is an underground drill rig, and that's operating now. The other drill rig that we're getting is a surface diamond drill rig, and we have our eyes on drill rigs. As I said, it's just getting the staff to operate it.
Okay, there's quite a few questions coming through just on news flow. So, I mean, I'll just sort of wrap them all up together. What should shareholders look forward to over the coming months, and when are results due?
Sure. Well, we haven't actually received all the results from drilling at the A1 mine, so we expect further drill results there. We'll obviously be continuing news flow on the mine as far as how the opening up of Queen's Lode goes and how our scoping studies look. If we can get permission from the ASX to release those numbers in compliance with the JORC code. So there'll be plenty of news from the A1 mine, but with what we see in the near future of having 2 diamond drill rigs running hard at Malden, I think that's going to be the real source of news flow. So that's where I'm looking forward to, a continuous long-term run of news flow.
Wonderful. Sorry, there's quite a few questions coming through, everyone. Okay, so how does production compare with Centennial?
Well, we actually own Centennial and still operate Centennial as the owners of that business. So it's a sub business. In the preceding couple of years under administration, the operations ran very well, but it was very much a short-term view. There was no drilling, there was no development for the future, as you can imagine. Why would you if you're an administrator? So the high-grade ore was targeted and exploited, and from my understanding, was actually quite profitable for the operators. Since we've taken over, we've taken a view that rather than continue down that pathway, we invested a bit more for the future, and that included a tailings dam uplift, that included all the underground drilling, that included developing a decline to the lower levels, which has actually now got us to the top of Queens, but has opened up new deeper levels to access ore as well. And all of those have obviously cost a lot of money. So I think the annual report showed an operational loss of 1.5 million over the last year. I think given the investment and the future looking mining activities, that wasn't actually a bad outcome, but we certainly want to start seeing positive revenues from the operations. And for example, the month of September looked really good. So the future is certainly looking really bright. We've expended a lot of that money that we needed to put the operations onto a longer term profitable footing, and the gold price is doing the right thing by us as well. So we're pretty excited by the operations.
There's just one on the head grade for A1. So what's been the average head grade since Kaiser acquired the assets?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I know the number for September looks like it reconciled at just under 12 grams a tonne for that month. And that was a good month. So we're modelling targeting 9 gram head grade, and there's a lot of variability with this ore body. You know, you will have a month where it's quite a lot lower grade. You could conceivably get a 6 gram month, and then you could get I think under administration they had a 25 gram month. So it all averages out. The month of September at 12 grams being our most recent month that we've reconciled is a pretty good outcome.
And just finally, Jono, so what are you most excited about?
I have to say, Malden looks like just such a fabulous opportunity. We know it's situated in the right area. It's in between major historic gold fields. It's had a unbelievable production. As I said, its average head grade was 28 grams from the underground, and it's barely been scratched at the surface. So I think the opportunity there is to really unlock that. It's grossly underexplored. A lot of the Victorian high-grade reefs really just weren't of interest to people. I mean, they got historic grades up to 205 grams a tonne in previous drilling, and it was only over a narrow interval, so they decided it wasn't economic. But Fosterville is extremely profitable from Victorian narrow high-grade lodes. So that's where I think the real value can be achieved. And we're coming from such a low base, Jane. It's you know, for a gold company in production, it's I think it's just got so much upside.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's actually all we have time for today. If we've missed any of your questions, please feel free to reach out via the contact details on the bottom of our ASX releases, and a copy of this will be available online in the coming days. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jane. That was great.